Greetings, friends. Prepare for another thrilling journey as we delve into Reddit's most bizarre tales. We're plunging deep into the quirkiest corners of the web. Grab your popcorn and join us on this adventure. Remember to hit subscribe and like. Let's begin. 7 years. It had been 7 years of marriage filled with all the ups and downs that life could throw at us. We were young when we first met, full of dreams and ambitions, eager to build a life together. We had our share of good times, of laughter and joy, but also our share of struggles. Marriage is never easy, and ours was no exception. But through it all, I thought we had something solid, something that could withstand the pressures of time and circumstance. Yet, somewhere along the way, I lost sight of what mattered most. I began to take her for granted, began to feel restless and dissatisfied with the life we had built. I made the biggest mistake of my life. I had an affair. At first, it was just a flirtation, something that made me feel alive again, like I was breaking free from the monotony of everyday life. But as these things often do, it spiraled out of control. I betrayed the woman who had stood by my side through thick and thin. I knew it was wrong, but in my selfishness, I convinced myself that I deserved this, that it was somehow justified. When she found out, it was like a bomb had gone off in our lives. The pain in her eyes was unbearable, and for the first time, I truly realized the gravity of what I had done. But by then, it was too late. The trust was broken, and there was no going back. We divorced and went our separate ways, and the life we had spent years building together was reduced to rubble. After the divorce, I tried to move on with my life. The woman I had the affair with seemed like she could be the one to fill the void left by my failed marriage. But life has a funny way of teaching you lessons, often in the most painful ways possible. It wasn't long before I found out that she had been cheating on me. Karma, as they say, is a bitch. I was devastated. The betrayal cut deep, not just because of what she had done, but because it forced me to confront the person I had become. I had thrown away my marriage for a woman who ultimately did the same thing to me that I had done to my wife. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but in a way, it was exactly what I needed to wake up to the reality of my actions. I realized that I had been running from my problems instead of facing them head on. I had destroyed something beautiful, and in return, life had dealt me the same hand. I was alone, broken, and filled with regret. After the affair ended, I decided to move back to the same town where my ex-wife and our children lived. I wanted to be closer to my kids, to be a part of their lives in a meaningful way. I knew that I had a lot to make up for, and this was the first step. At first, it was awkward being back in the same town as my ex-wife. We had gone through so much pain and hurt, and there was still a lot of unresolved tension between us. But over time, something unexpected happened. We started talking again, slowly at first, just casual conversations about the kids, but eventually we began to reconnect on a deeper level. I was a different person now. The experiences I had gone through had changed me, humbled me. I was no longer the selfish, reckless man who had destroyed our marriage. I had learned the hard way that actions have consequences, and I was determined to be a better person, not just for myself, but for my children and for her. As we spent more time together, we began to rebuild our friendship. We talked about the past, about what had gone wrong, and for the first time, I truly listened. I understood the pain I had caused her, and I apologized, not just with words, but with actions. I showed her that I was willing to put in the work to become the man she deserved. It wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight, but slowly, we began to rebuild what we had lost. We spent more time together, not just as co-parents, but as friends. We shared our hopes and dreams, our fears and regrets. We became closer than we had been in years, and eventually, we decided to give our relationship another try. For the past 2 years, we have worked hard to rebuild our relationship. It hasn't been without its challenges, but we have grown so much closer. We've learned how to communicate better, how to be honest with each other, and how to support each other in ways we never did before. We even moved back in together, creating a home not just for our children, but for ourselves. We reached a point where we could finally say, "I love you" again, and truly mean it. It was a milestone, a testament to how far we had come. We started talking about our future, about buying a house together, of the life we wanted to build. It felt like we had been given a second chance, and this time we were determined not to mess it up. Just when I thought everything was finally falling into place, life threw us a curveball. One day, out of the blue, she told me that she wanted to start dating other men. At first, I was in shock. We had worked so hard to get to where we were, and now she was telling me that she wanted to see other people. It didn't make any sense. She explained that during the time we were apart, I had the opportunity to explore what I really wanted, to see if there was something or someone else out there for me. Now she felt that she deserved the same chance. She assured me that she loved me, that I wasn't going to lose her, but I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that settled in the pit of my stomach. The thought of her being with someone else was unbearable. I had worked so hard to win her back, to rebuild our relationship, and now it felt like it was all slipping away. I was torn. On one hand, I wanted to support her, to give her the freedom to do what she needed to do. I understood where she was coming from, but on the other hand, I couldn't stand the thought of losing her again. The idea of her dating other men felt like a betrayal, even though she was being honest with me about her intentions. I didn't want to be trapped in a situation that made me uncomfortable, but I also didn't want to lose her or make her resent me. It was a battle within myself, a constant tug of war between my love for her and my fear of losing her. I tried to talk to her about how I was feeling, about my fears and insecurities, but every time I brought it up, she reassured me that everything would be fine, that this was just something she needed to do for herself. She promised that she wouldn't leave me, that this was just a way for her to figure out what she really wanted. But no matter how many times she tried to reassure me, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. I started to question everything, our relationship, our future, even my own self-worth. Was I not enough for her? Had I done something wrong? Or was this just her way of getting back at me for what I had done in the past? As the days went on, the tension between us grew. I could feel myself pulling away, building walls around my heart to protect myself from the pain I feared was coming. I didn't want to lose her, but I also didn't want to be in a relationship where I felt like I was constantly on edge, constantly worried about her being with someone else. I knew that I needed to make a decision. I couldn't go on like this, living in fear and uncertainty. I needed to be honest with myself and with her about what I was feeling. One night, as we sat together on the couch, I finally mustered up the courage to tell her the truth. I told her that I couldn't go through with it, that the thought of her being with other men was too much for me to handle. I told her that I loved her, that I wanted to build a life with her, but I couldn't do it if she was dating other people. There was a long silence after I spoke. She looked at me with a mixture of sadness and understanding, and I could see the wheels turning in her mind. She knew this was a pivotal moment, that whatever happened next would determine the future of our relationship. After what felt like an eternity, she finally spoke. She told me that she understood how I was feeling, that she didn't want to hurt me, but she also needed to do this for herself. She needed to know if we were really meant to be together or if there was something else out there for her. It was like a punch to the gut. I had hoped that she would change her mind, that she would choose me over this need to explore other options. But deep down, I knew that this was something she had to do for herself. We were at a crossroads, and there was no easy way forward. I had to make a choice, stay and try to work through my feelings, or walk away and protect myself from the pain that I feared was coming. In the end, I chose to stay. I chose to trust her, to believe in the love we had rebuilt, even though it terrified me. I knew that this was going to be one of the hardest things I had ever done, but I also knew that if I walked away now, I would be walking away from something worth fighting for. The days that followed were some of the most difficult of my life. Every time she went out, I couldn't help but wonder if she was seeing someone else. I tried to distract myself, to focus on work, on the kids, on anything other than the gnawing anxiety that was eating away at me. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't escape the fear that was always lurking in the back of my mind. I was constantly on edge, waiting for the other shoe to drop, for her to come home and tell me that she had found someone else. She was patient with me, always reassuring me that she loved me, that she wasn't going anywhere, but the uncertainty was unbearable. I felt like I was living in a nightmare, trapped in a situation that I had no control over. As time went on, something unexpected happened. I began to realize that this wasn't just about her wanting to date other men. This was about something much deeper, about both of us trying to figure out who we were and what we really wanted in life. For so long, I had been focused on trying to fix the mistakes of the past, on rebuilding our relationship and making up for what I had done. But in doing so, I had lost sight of myself, of my own needs and desires. She had been right in a way. During the time we were apart, I had the chance to explore what I wanted, to figure out who I was without her. Now she needed the same opportunity, and as much as it hurt, I knew that I couldn't stand in the way of that. We had a long, honest conversation about our relationship, about our fears and insecurities, and about what we wanted for the future. For the first time, I truly listened to her, without letting my own fears cloud my judgment. She told me that she loved me, that she wanted to be with me, but that she also needed to know that this was the right choice for her. She needed to feel confident in our relationship, and the only way she could do that was by exploring other options. It was a painful truth to accept, but I knew that if we were going to have any chance of making this work, I had to let go of my fear and trust her. As difficult as it was, I began to find a sense of peace with the situation. I realized that love isn't about control or possession. It's about trust, about allowing the person you love the freedom to be themselves, even if it means risking your own heart in the process. I stopped trying to control the outcome and started focusing on what I could control: my own actions, my own growth, my own happiness. I started taking care of myself, spending time with friends, pursuing hobbies, and doing the things that made me feel alive. And in doing so, I began to feel more secure in our relationship. I stopped worrying so much about what she was doing and started trusting that if we were truly meant to be together, we would find our way back to each other. Eventually, she came to me and told me that she had made a decision. She had dated a few men, but in the end, she realized that what we had was special, that she didn't want to lose me. She told me that she was ready to fully commit to our relationship, that she didn't need to look elsewhere to know that I was the one she wanted to be with. It was a moment of relief, but also one of deep gratitude. We had been through so much, and yet here we were, still standing, still in love, still fighting for each other. We decided to take the next step in our relationship. We started looking for a house to buy together. It was a symbol of our commitment, of our desire to build a future together, and as we walked through potential homes, hand in hand, I knew that we had come full circle. Our journey had been anything but easy, but in the end, it had brought us closer than ever before. We had faced our demons, confronted our fears, and emerged stronger for it. As we settled into our new home, I couldn't help but reflect on how far we had come. We had been to hell and back, but through it all, we had found a way to rebuild our love, to create something even stronger than what we had before. I knew that our relationship would never be perfect, that there would always be challenges to face, but I also knew that we were in this together, that we were stronger as a team than we ever could be apart. She was my partner, my confidant, my best friend, and as I looked at her across the room, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the second chance we had been given. Life is full of twists and turns, of unexpected challenges and opportunities, but in the end, it's the love we share that gets us through. We had faced our darkest moments and come out on the other side, not just as survivors, but as victors. Our love had been tested, but it had also been strengthened, refined by the fires of adversity. And as we stood together in our new home, ready to embark on the next chapter of our lives, I knew that whatever the future held, we would face it together. This was our story, a story of love, loss, redemption, and ultimately, of finding our way back to each other. A story of two people who had been given a second chance, and who were determined not to waste it.